Those who are online would also remember to mute yourself. Thanks so much.
We do know how to talk. I like that. But now we will light our chalice. While Patrick Murphin reads our chalice lighting words, those of you at home, if you have a flame, you're invited to light your own chalice at home if you would like. Patrick?
This reading is by Summer Albiati, or adapted from Summer. Lighting this chalice may feel difficult today. This symbol of justice, known to be a light of hope for the marginalized, a message of sanctuary for the oppressed, a flame that feels lost or diminished somehow. May lighting this chalice today, no matter how difficult it may feel, help us rekindle compassion and mercy within the deep crevices of our hearts, so that we can once again bring justice and hope into the world, struggling to find its humanity, struggling to find its soul.
Thank you, Patrick. This is instead of our usual reading of our mission statement. We're going to do something a little different today. On the morning of November 6th, Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, UU minister and the elected president of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, or UUA, sent an open letter to UU congregations throughout the United States, calling us to remember and to claim our values and heritage, stating, "We are a sanctuary people." And it's a message that bears repeating, and so we're going to repeat it today. 8 months later, we're going to revisit that message from Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt.
We gather on the morning after, in a time of great fear and devastation and very real risk to ourselves and our beloveds. There's so much that we cannot yet know, even if we know the shape and fear the character of our next governmental administration. We cannot fully know what is yet to come in this country. What I do know, beyond any reasonable doubt, is that we are a sanctuary people. We can make that claim from the powerful efforts of our elders in the middle of the 20th century through to our congregations and communities offering shelter to migrants today. Whether Harbor or Pink Haven, our homes, sanctuaries, and even our national headquarters model what it means to offer solidarity, shelter, and asylum in the face of what many of us cannot begin to imagine. These are times that will be defined by the continued and increased need for organizing and a faithful commitment to mutual aid. I want to invite us all back to what we learned in our earliest understandings of what humanity itself means. We draw our purpose from the call to honor and uphold the non-negotiable sacredness of each and every person, of earth and of all beings, bound up together in an abiding love that rests in the call to justice. So many of us are afraid today, fearful for the safety of our loved ones and overwhelmed by the public plans to deny basic human rights. I invite us to feel the reality of that concern and to hold one another in our grieving. I also want us to remember how very many others in our UU communities and across the nation share our values and prepared all the way through this election for what might be asked of us through the remainder of this month and beyond. Look to your community partners. Draw on all that you have learned through UU the Vote and other opportunities to work for electoral justice, and know that you are never alone. Your UUA will be with you this day and for all the days to come. We have been planning for this possibility and are here to offer best practices for safety, theology, spiritual practice, and communal care. We will rest in the strength of our covenants and bring that love, generosity, sacred witness, and values-driven interdependence to bear as we work toward a future where our liberation is collective and all of our people count themselves whole. I love you. Let us keep working toward all that we hold most holy together. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.
Let's see. This story, written by Deepa Iyer, We Are the Builders, reminds us that there are so many different ways that we can make a difference in the world. The same author has a book that's written for adults, and it's a workbook, and then this is the children's version, but it's still good for us as adults as well. It begins, welcome to our community day. Ready to find your role to play? My name is Ramla. I'm your guide. Follow me and stay by my side. So many grown-ups and kids are here. Everyone wants to volunteer. There's plenty to do in our town. Help new friends, plant trees in the ground. The time is now. Let's all play a part. Listen and learn. What moves your heart? We are the builders. We form and we forge, construct and fix, improve homes with nails and bricks. See those old desks, tables, and chairs, good as new with some repairs. Who wants to join the builders? We are the caregivers. We comfort, console, soothe, and cheer, care kits for all, near and dear, acts of service and words that mend. How can I help my new friend? Who wants to join the caregivers? We are the frontline responders. We plan and protect. Stay prepared, storms brewing, but don't be scared. Stock cans of soup, bags of fresh fruits, gather warm coats, gloves, and boots. Who wants to join the frontline responders? We are the disruptors. We declare, demand, demonstrate, call for change. Don't hesitate. Raise our voices, banners and beats, meet and march out in the streets. Who wants to join the disruptors? We are the experimenters. We scan, invent, and improvise, solve hard problems with fresh eyes. What if these used bottles and rags could become backpacks and bags? Who wants to join the experimenters? We are the visionaries. We dream, imagine, and inspire a world we can all admire. Fresh air, clean water, safe and free. Bright futures, that's what we see. Who wants to join the visionaries? We are the weavers. We stitch, we braid, we intertwine. Common threads link hearts and minds. When people fight or disagree, find what connects you and me. Who wants to join the weavers? We are the healers. We renew, restore, and relieve. Tend to those who cry and grieve. Sometimes when the world is too much, we nurture with breath and touch. Who wants to join the healers? We are the storytellers. We sing, we dance, we create art, bring joy and love heart to heart. Vibrant murals preserve our past, histories cherished at last. Who wants to join the storytellers? And of all the different roles to play, which one feels like you today? You could become a guide like me, show new folks what they can be. We mentor, we advise, we steer, share wisdom, honest and clear. Now that it's clear what we can each do, we want to hear from all of you. What role would you choose? Who would you be? How would you change your community? And the next slide is an illustration reminding us that each of these roles, each of these ways of being, create an ecosystem of liberation, of justice, of solidarity, with each part important and each part connected. Not long ago, we can go ahead. Thank you for the slides on the story. Not long ago, there is a monthly meeting that I just found out about not too long ago of all of the congregations who are doing work related to immigrant justice, get together informally once a month by phone and share what are we doing, who's doing what can we learn from each other, what can we try. And I was on that call for the first time just a couple weeks ago, and it just happened that while I was on that call, Drew Heckman was on that call also, talking about Rainbow Railroad. And I said, man, I would really love to have Drew speak with both of our congregations. And then it dawned on me, we're all going to be together on the 20th. Hey, Drew, are you available on the 20th? So we do have a special guest speaker today, Drew Heckman, sharing with us the work of Rainbow Railroad and how it connects with all of the things we've talked about so far today.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Give me 1 second to get my notes up. Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks for inviting me to speak. I'm so happy to be here. I drove up from Chicago this morning. That is where I live. But I'm originally from Nebraska. And in the beautiful drive up here, I had a lot of reminders of my home state. So lots of open green space, strip malls. It's great. So yeah, as Dave said, my name is Drew Heckman. I use he, him pronouns. I am a senior engagement officer at Rainbow Railroad. I'll talk a little bit more about what that means today. But before I was at Rainbow Railroad, I was an immigration attorney at the National Immigrant Justice Center in Chicago, working with LGBTQ asylum seekers to help them get released from detention and then help them win their asylum cases. So today we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to be talking about queer forced displacement, so the ways that LGBTQ people are forcibly displaced from their homes. We're going to talk about Rainbow Railroad's work to respond to that crisis, and then we're going to talk about some of our more recent programs that are working right here in communities in Illinois. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say is that I actually attend Second Unitarian in Chicago, so we're friends. Great, so we can go to the next slide. Great, so Rainbow Railroad, if you have not heard of us, it is a tongue twister, I'm sorry about that, but we are an international nonprofit and our mission is simple. We help get at-risk LGBTQI+ people to safety. And if you're not familiar with that acronym, that is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, intersex, and more. And we can go to the next slide. And to understand our mission, it's really important to understand the scope of forced displacement right now. There are over 120 million people who have been forcibly displaced from their homes across the world. That is the largest that number has ever been. That number has been increasing every year for the last 12 years. And right now, that's about 1 in 69 people on Earth. For context, that's about a third of the US population. So this is a massive number of people who have been forced to flee. If you want to go to the next slide. Though we don't know exactly how many of those people identify as part of the LGBTQI+ community, we can do some back-of-the-napkin math. We know from recent global surveys that about 9% of adults worldwide identify as part of the LGBTQI+ community in one way or another. So that comes out to about 10.8 million forcibly displaced LGBTQI+ people. And what's important to know here is that being queer or being trans is often a hidden axis of persecution. To survive, people have to hide who they are, including from their own family and their own community. And this can make it really dangerous for people who are fleeing, not usually with anyone else, but often on their own. And what I also like to say here is that LGBTQI+ people are randomly distributed through the human population. I like to say that we're like wildflowers. So wherever there are people, there are LGBTQI+ people. We're in every town and city, we're in every province, every state, every continent. The question is often just whether or not it is safe for people to live openly and authentically as themselves. And there are a number of reasons that that can be really hard. This is a map of where LGBTQI+ identity is criminalized in one way or another. And those penalties range from short terms of imprisonment to life in prison, up to and including the death penalty. So you'll see here where those different penalties are in place, but one thing I do like to say about this map, especially when we're looking at the cluster of countries on the continent of Africa, is that a lot of these anti-LGBTQ laws and policies are not indigenous to these places. They were enforced on these places by missionaries, by colonists from Europe. And in fact, there are many brave activists on the ground in these countries working to remind people of the often rich histories of gender and sexual diversity that used to exist in these places. And Rainbow Railroad is proud to support those activists. So how does Rainbow Railroad respond to this crisis? We have a number of programs, but at the heart of what we do and what most people know us for is our emergency travel support program. So this is helping people escape unsafe situations. That can be getting to a safe house in this same country or a neighboring country, or it can be permanently relocating to a country like the US or Canada. And around that, we have a number of different programs that have sprung up, including our cash assistance program, our partnership development program with organizations on the ground, our crisis response monitoring, our information services and referrals, and then government resettlement pathways, which is where I mostly work. You can go to the next slide. And so most recently, especially in light of the current political reality that we're living in the US, we've really expanded our programs to focus on post-relocation support. So getting people out of an unsafe situation is only half the battle. You also want to make sure that someone can successfully integrate once they're in their new community, because relocating can be an extremely isolating and alienating experience. So here are some of the programs that we've launched recently. We're going to focus mostly on the first one today, which is called Community Support Teams, and that is where I do most of my work. You can skip ahead. So community support teams are volunteer teams of 3 or more people, and those teams are recruited and trained by Rainbow Railroad, and they provide 6 months of financial support, housing assistance and resources, and community integration services to LGBTQI+ asylum seekers. And they get funding, technical assistance, and oversight from Rainbow Railroad. So there are 3 ways to participate in the CST program, which is what we like to call it. You can join or form a team. That is the most impactful way, and that is what we need most at this moment, is boots on the ground. But if you can't do that, if you can't donate your time, you can always donate money. That is something that our teams can use to form more teams, help more people. And then if folks happen to have like a spare unit or room that they're willing to lend to someone for a few months as they're getting their feet under them, offering housing to our program participants is another really impactful way to help. Great. So a little bit more about what people get when they join the CST program. Not everyone who gets referred to us for services needs housing, but if they do, we want to make sure that we can offer them some housing support while they're in the program. So we have a few different ways to set them up with housing. One can be through our volunteers who are actually in the community support team. Another can be volunteers in the community who have offered housing sort of independently of the CST. We have something called a Rainbow Housing Drive, which is sort of a national call for volunteers who have housing to offer. And then we also have a very cool partnership with Airbnb, who has a whole charitable arm, and people can list their stays for free for charitable purposes, and so we're able to take advantage of some of those. Oops, can we stay on the previous slide for one more second? And then we offer financial support to all of our program participants. Because many people are newer to the country, they don't yet have their work authorization, and so we want to make sure that they have some cash support so they don't feel compelled to work before they have work authorization, because that can cause complications with their immigration case. And then finally, we have these community integration services, and this is what's on the next slide. And all of these pictures are real people in our programs, except for this. This is Regina George from Mean Girls. So our acronym that we use to summarize our community integration services is FETCH. We are trying to make FETCH happen. That is the Mean Girls reference, as you see on the screen. So that's the financial and material assistance, which is that weekly financial support, and then connecting people to local resources like food banks, clothing banks. E is for like edification broadly, connecting people to English or job prep or volunteer roles in the community. T is helping people just understand how to get around independently in the community, how to use things like bike lanes, how to use public transit, how to call an Uber or a Lyft if you need one. C is for culture and community, making sure people know where they can go in their new town to speak the same language with people if they want to, where LGBTQ people spend time, what sort of resources they can access there. And then finally, housing and health support is helping people understand where might you get free or low-cost furniture, how would you access things like healthcare in your community, how does insurance work, things that are already confusing for us. Great. And so how does this work? Rainbow Railroad provides the bulk of funds to all of our volunteer teams, but we do ask our teams if they have the ability to do some fundraising to support our newcomers as well. So it comes out to about 30% funds raised by the team itself, and then Rainbow Railroad will provide 70% of that to the teams. If teams cannot raise that money, that's okay. We have some donors who are able to cover that for people. We have some drag queens who have done fundraisers for us. We get very creative. We never want that to be a barrier to participating, because it really is the time and the hearts that we need. Okay. We can skip ahead. So how does it work? How do we get clients? We work with LGBTQ immigration clinics who are representing people in their asylum proceedings, and we accept referrals from them for folks who they think would benefit from more wraparound support. I noticed this when I was an attorney. Often you feel very limited in what you can do as an attorney. You're just handling the legal case. You're not a social worker, but often people are people. They have all these other needs and they need help. And so before this program was created, there wasn't really a lot to offer folks who were moving through that asylum process for years and years with limited support. So all of our legal partners are so excited that we're launching, and our most local partner here is the National Immigrant Justice Center, which has headquarters in the Loop. Great. And then I will just end by saying, if you are interested in forming a community support team, the way you would do that is build your roster of 3 to 10 people. You get to choose a team name, which is very fun. I have some very creative team names. We have Shantae You Stay LA, Windy City Welcome Crew, lots of good ones. Everyone will do a background check, and then we have a recorded orientation training that people do to make sure they understand what's being asked of them. And then there's just an online application, which I review and approve. And then there's just a few volunteer forms that would come to you after that. But if you're interested in learning more, I have some forms and flyers in the back in a box as you're on your way out, and I'll be around afterwards to talk about anything that you have questions about. But thank you so much for having me. I think the messages today really fit with the work that we're doing. It's so inspiring to see, and I also really love this banner in the front. I will be taking a photo with that before I leave. But my contact information is up here, and I also have some business cards in the box with all the flyers in the back. So thank you for having me, and thanks for the work you're doing in our communities.
Yeah. Keep breathing slowly and deeply. Position your body in whatever way helps you feel grounded and helps you feel centered. Continue to breathe. slowly, gently. And as you breathe, please join me in a moment of prayer and of reflection. Loving God of many names, divine Spirit of life, mystery that is beyond naming and cannot be named, we gather together in person, online, and in community with gratitude for this day, for the people who fill our lives with love and with hope, for organizations like Rainbow Railroad who respond to those in need, who put love into action and inspire us to do likewise. May we each remember that we each have our own gifts and abilities to share with one another, to share with this community, and to share with the world around us. May we find ways, large and small, together and individually, to create beloved community together, to create solidarity and sanctuary for one another and for others in need. These are challenging, difficult, and dangerous times. It can be tempting to turn away. Let us find ways to express our grief. Let us find ways to express our outrage. And let us find ways to express our love. Let us remember that the time we have together and the time we have in this day is precious and sacred and holy, and that we are a people connected always in mystery and in miracle. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be. And as you feel ready, open your eyes. And join together, I'd like to just take a little time to consider the message we heard at the beginning of today's service, that we are a sanctuary people. We are a sanctuary people. It's in our heritage, it's in our values. It is an identity worth claiming. And it's not necessarily easy to live up to, and next to impossible to do alone. Sanctuary comes from the Latin sanctus, meaning holy. A place that's set aside for the holy, a place that's set aside for worship. And it also refers to a place of refuge and a place of protection. It holds both of those meanings. And so sanctuary is where we do the work of nurturing and tending to our spirit, to our souls. It's where we do the work of tending to one another, particularly those that are most vulnerable, those that are in need of protection and in need of refuge. And so as we consider this space, the space that we're in, we call this very room the sanctuary, but that wasn't always so. At one time, this was a restaurant. We made it sanctuary. The McHenry County Jewish Congregation, MCJC, has also made it sanctuary. The Byron Colby Barn has many uses. But on Sunday morning, when Prairie Circle gathers, it becomes sanctuary. Sanctuary is a place and a space that we create. It's a way of being. It's a verb. It's something that we do. We create sanctuary in both senses of the word, a place for nurturing our spirits and a place of safety and refuge. We create sanctuary as a way of nurturing spirit and as a place of safety and refuge when we honor people's chosen names and we honor people's preferred pronouns. You might not have thought about it that way before. but we want to create a place and a space where you have the safety and the freedom, each of us have the safety and the freedom to be your fullest self. Maybe you have a name that you're trying out that you haven't used before, that's different than the name that was assigned to you. We want this to be a space where you can try using that name and knowing that it will be accepted and respected, and that we'll do our best to call you by that name. And if we fall short, that we can be reminded and begin again in love. Maybe there's a pronoun that you want to try and see how it feels and how it fits. And we want this to be a safe space where you can do so. Or perhaps you have a chosen pronoun, and your chosen pronoun or your physical appearance are outside of the traditional gender binary. We want this to be a place where you experience sanctuary in both senses of the word, that you are respected as whole and as sacred, that this is a space where you can be safer and braver, a place that is holy and a place that is refuge. And so it requires each of us to do some things that may be somewhat different than we do in other places and spaces, places that don't claim to be sanctuary and refuse any efforts to even try to be sanctuary. But it's hard. It can be hard to tend to your spirit in places where people do not see you for who you are. Don't get me wrong. People always find ways to do the hard thing because their spirits are worth it. But what is it that we strive to create together? Being a sanctuary people means practicing sanctuary here so that we can create sanctuary elsewhere. And we can learn. We can learn to create sanctuary with one another so we can create sanctuary together with other people outside of our congregations. There's so many different ways to do so. We heard one example this morning with Rainbow Railroad. And so perhaps today after church you'd like to talk with Drew more about ways to support or ways to be involved. Let me extend another example and invitation. This afternoon at 2 o'clock, our local McHenry County Rapid Response Team will be here in this building stuffing folders with Know Your Rights information that will be distributed to local businesses to help defend against ICE detention and deportation. If you're interested in doing so, you're welcome to be here at 2 and to assist. There may be other organizations that you collaborate with in the work for justice. Let's be sure to share those communities and those resources with one another. We each won't be able to do everything, but together we create that ecosystem of greater love and greater justice. And through it all, we must remember the full meaning of sanctuary and remember to make room for joy, to create time for Sabbath, to nurture our spirits even as we tend to one another, and to live this day well and hold this time, this precious time, sacred. May it be so, and may we make it so. Please rise as you're willing and able in our closing hymn, Be Ours a Religion. It's a very short hymn. It takes up one slide. So we're going to sing it twice. Cameron's going to play the melody once for us because it's not one we sing very often, so it may not feel familiar, and then we'll sing it together 2 times through. Cameron, before I give our final blessing, I just want to thank you for sharing your time with us and not only playing for us, but just for being yourself, for the times that you joined us at the microphone and shared the things that were on your heart and on your mind. You've truly been part of our community. And know that you continue to be, that Chicago's not that far away. It kind of is, but feel free to visit whenever. Feel free to call as you need, you know. And we have just a gift of appreciation to take with you just to remember us by. This is a collage that our new office administrator, Cheryl, put together. It's vintage sheet music with the words that music expresses that which we cannot remain silent and that which we cannot put into words. Forever grateful, Tree of Life Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And so it's fitting that today's blessing will be a musical blessing that we sing together. The words of You've Got a Friend by Carole King, a reminder that as we leave this place of sanctuary, we remain a people of sanctuary, that we are called by one another, by love and community, by courage and covenant, by the fullness of our humanity. And for those of us who use the God language, called by God, called by a higher power of our understanding, by the divine Spirit, called to be there, and there we will. Let us sing together in love and blessing. You can remain seated, but the words will be on the screen. We'll sing together before we're excused.